A new report over the weekend has brought the FBI and Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh back into the center of a political debate that is today consuming Capitol Hill and the 2020 candidates. The Washington Post reports, quote, Democratic presidential candidates on Sunday demanded that Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh be investigated or impeached in response to a new allegation that he exposed himself to a female classmate at a drunken dorm party years ago at Yale University. That new allegation, detailed in a report over the weekend by the New York Times, that also lays out concerns that the allegation wasn't fully investigated by the FBI in the background check that became central to Kavanaugh's confirmation. The Times reports that a witness to the new allegation, Max Stier, quote, notified senators and the FBI about this account, but the FBI did not investigate, and Mr. Stier has declined to discuss it publicly. President Trump today on Twitter seizing on a detail added to the Times reporting last night in an editor's note, saying the alleged victim involved in this new claim, quote, declined to be interviewed, and friends say she does not recall the episode. But concerns unrelated to that incident in the New York Times also raise questions about the adequacy of the FBI's background investigation into Kavanaugh. A probe into another sexual abuse allegation raised by Deborah Ramirez during Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing may also have fallen short, according to the Times. Quote, Ms. Ramirez's legal team gave the FBI a list of at least 25 individuals who may have had corroborating evidence, but the Bureau, in its supplemental background investigation, interviewed none of them. Though we learned many of these potential witnesses tried in vain to reach the FBI on their own. Two FBI agents interviewed Ms. Ramirez, telling her that they found her credible. But the Republican-controlled Senate had imposed strict limits on the investigation. Quote, we have to wait to get authorization to do anything else, Bill Pittard, one of Ms. Ramirez's lawyers, recalled the agent saying. It was almost a little apologetic. Joining our conversation just in time, Karine Jean-Pierre, Chief Public Affairs Officer for MoveOn.org and politics editor for The Root, Jason Johnson, both MSNBC contributors. I heard you brought fire to this debate yesterday, so let me start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a sham, and the whole thing was disgusting last year, and the idea that you're investigating an alleged sexual assault, multiple sexual assaults. You've got people who are basically beating down the doors to talk about this issue, and you remember at the time, I was like, well, let's give it a 10-day investigation. Really? So 10 days is all we need to determine whether or not an individual should have a job forever to determine the laws of the United States. But that is just a reminder again of, unfortunately, why journalism has been more effective in protecting the rights and investigating this government than the people who are supposed to be responsible for protecting us.
Look, it's a point Bob Costa just made about the whistleblower, that because this administration is ignoring Congress, basically one of the only outlets for a whistleblower of any bad conduct is journalism. Let me ask you, though, I saw that story sort of burst into flames again over the weekend with the usual partisan divides. Trump's taking, if Trump believes that that's a good story for him politically. And I saw Democrats call for the third impeachment this year, Trump, Barr, Kavanaugh. Is there any risk in going to their voters and saying, we went 0 for 3, but we tried?
Well, they haven't tried yet. Right? Like that's part of the problem. You can't keep calling for these impeachments and then not actually having any votes. And that has been the thing that has frustrated people. Look, if Nancy Pelosi won't call a vote after Mueller, after this report, after testimonies, after hearings, if she's not going to go after President Trump, she's not going to go after Brett Kavanaugh. She's not going to go after Bob Barr. I would say Bob Barr. She's not going to go after Barr. And that's the problem. It's not that these people haven't committed acts that are worth impeaching. It's that we lack the backbone and leadership in the Democratic Party to actually do something about it. And that, I think, is going to be the most dangerous thing heading into 2020, because you have a lot of voters out there, it's like, well, I don't believe you. I don't believe you're going to go through with anything, so why should I put my vote? Why should I put my effort? Why should I fight for a party that doesn't fight for me?
And there was a belief at the beginning of calls for Trump's impeachment. Karine, Elizabeth Warren, I think, was the first person to call for his impeachment. That led to, I wouldn't say a dam breaking, but it did break open the calls on Capitol Hill. You had Nadler today say that he's busy impeaching Trump. He's not going to impeach Kavanaugh.
Yeah, it is incredibly infuriating. And you're right, Elizabeth Warren did this amazing kind of, she read part of the Mueller report, and it really broke a dam. It started it. And I guess, to be fair, Julian Castro might have been the first one, and then she kind of really put it on the map. Look, you know, I think back to a year ago when the Kavanaugh hearing was happening, and yes, it was a sham. The FBI, because because of Donald Trump. It was a sham investigation. The Republican hearing was a joke. But I remember just thinking about the voters, women were really energized, right? And yes, the Kavanaugh hearing probably did excite some of Trump voters, especially in those deep red states, but it hurt Trump in those key suburban House district that gave the House to Democrats, right? And so to Jason's point, what are Democrats going to do? They voters purposely gave you the House so you can hold this president accountable because he's a runaway train and you're not doing anything. There is no impeachment happening for anybody, and they're just not moving forward in a way that voters could say, okay, I know that my vote mattered.
Let me just follow up with you about the question you made about women voters, because it was the women candidates who got out ahead of this first over the weekend, Senator Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren. Do you think this is something that we still process differently? Jason aside.
Jason was like, I've seen this before.
But just from the candidates, I know that, and I don't know. This is a question I honestly do not know the answer to this. I mean, were anything to, or was it sort of the prosecutor and Kamala Harris? I mean, why were Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren out front?
I think it's a bunch of things. We have to remember that the Women's March, when that happened right after Donald Trump, the day after his inauguration, that's where everything kind of the floodgates opened. That's when you started hearing from women, and women got very involved, and a lot of women decided to run for office. So there is a clear voice out there that these candidates are listening to, and I don't think if you are the Democratic nominee and going into the general election and you're trying to beat Trump, you're not going to win without a high volume of women coming out to vote.
I didn't get enough of either of you. We come back tomorrow. I'm here again tomorrow. I didn't get enough. I'm dying right now. I never say this. I wish I had a podcast. I need more of them. We have to sneak in our last break. We'll be right back.